Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Stakeholders, Objectives and Conflicts, which is today's topic. And this is one of the very interesting topic, stakeholders. So who are your stakeholders and what does stakeholders mean? Stakeholders means the one who has a vested interest in the company. Anyone whoever has an interest in a company is called stakeholders. Now, who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders could be internal, like employees or managers of a company. Internal means inside the organization. They operate inside the organization. That's why they are known as internal. It's employees and managers or directors. Then we have connected, right? Connected are your investors or shareholders, the customers, suppliers, finance providers who give you loan like bank and competitors. Then we have external, the one who is outside the organization, like government, because they have to collect tax, so they will be involved, they will be interested in the company's operation. Then we have a community, pressure groups, right, and regulators. Next, now we are going to discuss what are the objectives of each stakeholders, right, starting with investor, the shareholder. Now shareholder, what will they be interested in? Since shareholders are the one who have invested their own money, right, they are the one who took risk. What's their objective? They want returns which will be greater than the risk which they took. Hence, maximization of shareholders' wealth is their prime objective. Next, we have managers. What are their aims? Right? Their aims could be both external and both internal. I'm sorry, both long term and short term. Short term, what do they want? Profit. They want profit. Why? Because their bonuses will be linked with the profit. Most of the managers, if you see the CEO, the directors, and all, they have this huge remuneration, right? They are most of their remuneration package is based on the profits which they are making, because they're going to get bonuses if high is the profit. Next, for the long term, what will they do? Sales maximization, or they want to defend against takeovers, right? And most of the time, if you see senior employees like directors and director level and CEO and all, what do? They try to follow their own aim at the expense of other stakeholders. That means that the objective which managers want to achieve is at the expense of other stakeholders. Other stakeholders' objectives are not being achieved because managers are self-motivated. You can say they are like kind of selfish with their own motives. They have their own motives and which they want to satisfy. Right? That's why all these issues and all agency problems, relationship issues comes and all. Because managers take decision for their own goal, which is against the shareholders' interest. Shareholders want something else, which is not matching with each other. That's why our next chapter, in fact, is on agency relationship, how to manage that conflicts with the various stakeholders. Next, we have employees. So employees, they will be worried about the salaries. Whether are they getting salary? Are their working condition is good or not? And we can see trade unions take an active part in this, right? But another issue can come is that if you want to maximize returns to employees, what happens to the shareholders? You can only give some educate return to shareholders. You're just satisfying. Earlier, remember in earlier video I have discussed that satisfying and maximizing. So you can satisfy, but you cannot maximize the return to the shareholder, because it's impossible that you satisfy all the stakeholders. You cannot. If you're satisfying someone else, that means some other stakeholder group is not satisfied. So there should be a balance. Which group you are focusing on, which group you want to satisfy, which group you want to maximize the returns. You have to take a decision. Customers. Customers is very important, a key to any organization, because without customers, organization will not operate. No matter how good your employees are or shareholders, how much they have invested. Ultimately, if you don't have good customers who does not come to you repeatedly over and over again, if they are not satisfied, definitely your business will, you cannot run your business, right? They will go to your competitors. So for them, the most important is value for money which they are getting. Are their needs being satisfied by your goods? And some of the customers are very key customers. That, right? 20-80 principle is there, the Pareto rule 20-80. That 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of the customer. Not all the customers are equally important. Some customers are key, they are very important, major customers. They are your big customers. Most of the revenues which you get are from this group of customers. 20% of customers, you get 80% of revenue. Remember that. Next, we have suppliers. Yes, because we need to raw materials from them. So suppliers is very important. Suppliers are worried about whether you are being able to pay or not, whether are you in a good condition relationship with them or not. Right? What do they want? They want good business, regular business, right? And also that you pay them on time. Next, finance providers. Finance providers are like banks, loan creditors, because they give us finance. So they will be interested in what? Whether the company is able to repay the finance with the interest or not. Right? Remember, this is also very important. You have to say, because if you're not able to pay interest back on time, what happens? We know the repercussions and all. Right? I don't have to tell you that. Next, we have government. Government. How government? Because government has two type of interest in an organization. One is from the political view, the other one is from the financial view. From the political view, they will be they want to increase exports, reduce imports, right? They want to control the they want to control mergers and accusations, so that an accusation and merger does not take place, unfair accusation and merger, which can harm customers. Because two big companies, if they join together and then they increase their prices very highly, which is like a monopoly they can create, which is not good for the customer. So in that, government can come forward and stop that mergers from happening. So otherwise they will be exploiting their customer, they will be taking advantage of their position, their size, right? So we have a committee for that also, but we don't want to go in detail in depth in that, because that's not relevant for the syllabus. For our syllabus, is what's relevant is the financial interest what they are having. They collect tax, they want to maximize tax. How will they maximize tax if the company makes good amount of profit? So they will be worried about the long term profit, right? They will also be protecting public, for example by banning smoking or tobacco. You can advertise tobacco. You banning smoking in certain public places. All these are concerns of government, which you have to understand. What happens if you start going into a business where you are selling cigarettes, right? Definitely there'll be an issue with the government which you have to face, because they have banned smoking in certain public places. So you have to be very careful, right? Government is also important stakeholder. Next, the last one in this video is community. We have various other stakeholders which is not so relevant, but this few list is enough for you. So community is important group of public sector, right? Where they have environmental expectations from private sector regulated organizations. Organic food, safe train. So they will be concerned if you are having a food, let's say you're in the food business. So they will be concerned, the community, whether it's organic food or not, whether you are breaching someone, whether you are destroying the environment or not, right? Safe train, clean up petrol. If you're in the communication sector, let's say transport, let's say transport, you're in the transport business. So they will be concerned that how much you are polluting the air, how much congestion, right? So they will be worried about this. A community is a larger part. They will be more worried about this, even though they are not very much important like your customer or your supplier or your manager or your employee. But this is also important, relevant, because some of the times this also will come. This community part will come there. There will be conflict with them, right? So The goal of the community will be broad but will include such as legal and social responsibilities. Are you following the legal and social responsibilities? Right? Are you checking on the pollution? Are you taking care of your employees? So all these are bigger broad goals which the community will be worried about. With this, we have one question, and with this question, this topic is over, right? So it's about stakeholder conflict. They have given you two types of stakeholders: employee versus shareholder, customer versus community, shareholder versus finance provider. What could be a potential conflict between each one of them? Right now, you can think of any answer and you can start writing and check your answer with the answer which I'm going to provide now. Right, I have the answer, so this is the answer. Employee versus shareholder. See, employees may resist the introduction of automated processes, which would improve efficiency but cost jobs. Right? If you're trying to do automation, right, in the company, what happens? Employees will resist. Why? Because if you do automation, then you don't need employees. They know that they are going to lose their job, which they don't want. Even if they know that they are not so much of efficient, they are not so efficient, right, compared to machines and all, but still they will resist because they want their job. Their job is more important than the efficiency of the company. But for the shareholder, what happens? Shareholders may resist wage rises. Shareholders not, they don't want to increase the wage, right, which are demanded by employees. Definitely employees will demand higher wage at some point of the time, because shareholders think that why to increase wage where I can automate the processes and even efficiency will improve, then I don't need the employees. I can resist the wage rise and employees will be resisting the automation. So, can you see the conflict? This is how a conflict comes. Next, customer and community. It's not just between employees and shareholder, it could be between, you have to know the types of conflict between various stakeholder groups, by the way. It's not just one, it's not just between shareholder and manager. That is like common, we all know. So just knowing one is not enough. You should know with employees and shareholder, with employees and manager, with customer and community, with customer and government, all this you have to know. Okay. So customer and community at large, what happens? Customers demand, definitely as a customer, we demand low prices and greater choice. But what happens? In order to provide them, a company may need to squeeze vulnerable suppliers or import products at great environmental cost. What happens when environmental cost increases? Community will come and take action against it because they are for the welfare of society, right? Next, we have the shareholder and the finance provider. This, the shareholder and the finance provider part is more likely to be asked in your syllabus, right? So shareholders may encourage management to pursue what risky strategies to maximize returns, because we know greater the risk, greater the return, right? But what does finance provider wants? They prefer what? Stable, lower risk policies. Why? Because if you are taking a lower risk policies, they know that your liquidity position will be good. You'll be able to pay back the interest with the debt. But if you are taking high risk investment, then you are not stable. Then your liquidity position is shaken. So finance providers does not want that. They want their money. Ultimately, they care about their money. With are they getting their debt on time or and with the interest, right? That's why they don't want the shareholder to go for risky strategies. But shareholders want to go for risky strategies because it will improve their return. Next, customers and shareholders or with manager. Customers require higher service levels, like 24 rather than 48-hour delivery. Definitely, customers want fast, right? Speed is very important for customer. Nowadays, customers are so impatient that if they order something, they just want it in the hand in just, within few seconds or minute or in that day, within that day. But which are resisted by shareholders. Why? It's too expensive, right? It will be very expensive for you to give it in 24 hours. That means you have to have staff. Let's say the customer is a foreign customer. They are demanding something in order. What happens? You need employees there also. You need employees there also in that country so that you can have that 24-hour delivery system, and you have to pay them also, which is costly, right? Which is going to be expensive for the shareholders and also going to increase the workload of the management also. You need more employees now to operate. Next, we have the government and the shareholder. This is very common, you will see. What happens? Government will insist upon level of welfare such as minimum wage. We all know when it imposed minimum wage, what happens? Government will be imposing minimum wage for the employees and health and safety practice. But we all know that in order to impose that minimum wage and health and safety practices is going to be very expensive for the company, for the shareholder. All what shareholders are worried about maximizing their return. But because now government has imposed health and safety practice and minimum wage, it's going to increase their expenses, unnecessary expenses. Next, the last one is shareholder and manager. Our next chapter is totally on this shareholder and manager. How to solve the issue, goal congruence. How can we make them align their goals in one direction? That's the topic of the next lecture. Next video will be on that only. So shareholders are concerned with maximization of their wealth. Managers are persuaded, right? Instead, pursue strategies focused on growth, as this may bring the greatest personal rewards. Right? Now, you might have come with a different suggestion than this, which is not there, which is perfectly all right, because it's not just one type of conflict. There could be many types of conflict which you can come up with, right? So that's it. In this video, the next is going to be about agency theory. Again, a very important theory, not only for your financial management, but agency theory will also be very relevant for your SBL. So if you have understood agency theory very well here, it will help you a lot in SBL, because there you are going to use it. Usually this theory will be there, right? So that's it. Take care and see you in my next video.